Good morning. I'm Stephen Toop, and I serve as President and Vice Chancellor of the University of British Columbia. Every year at Congregation, UBC has the honor of bestowing honorary degrees upon individuals who, in the opinion of the university community, have fit the criteria of excellence and eminence in their chosen field. Bramwell Tovey is one of those individuals, and I invite him now to step forward to receive his honorary degree. Madam Chancellor, one of Shakespeare's best-known phrases could easily describe Mr. Bramwell Tovey's journey so far. If music be the food of love, play on. And Maestro Tovey does. The greatly respected and much loved music director of the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra is entering his 12th season with the VSO. He continues to delight audiences with his gifts as a conductor, composer, and musician. Mr. Tovey is celebrated for his warm and charismatic presence on the podium and his extraordinary versatility and reach, with a repertoire that includes operatic, choral, British, and contemporary music. An esteemed guest conductor, he's worked with famed orchestras, including the London Philharmonic, the Frankfurt Radio Orchestra, and the Los Angeles Philharmonic at the Hollywood Bowl. He's also the founding host and conductor of the New York Philharmonic's Summertime Classics series at Avery Fisher Hall. He is happily recognized for this fine work, having won both Grammy and Juno Awards in 2007 for his wonderful recording with violinist James Ennis and the Vancouver Symphony of the Walton, Korngold, and Barber Concerti. He's also garnered praise as a composer, winning a Juno Award in 2003 for his classical composition entitled Requiem for a Charred Skull. 2 years ago, he premiered his first full-length opera, The Inventor, at the Calgary Opera to great success. And in June of this year, it was recorded here in Vancouver with the same group of soloists, including our own UBC honorary degree holder, Dr. Judith Forst, the Vancouver Symphony, and the UBC Opera Ensemble. We deeply appreciate Maestro Tovey's continuing contributions to our community through his relationship with the UBC School of Music and the Chan Center for the Performing Arts. Madam Chancellor, for enriching the musical life of cities throughout the world, especially Vancouver, I ask you to confer the degree of Doctor of Letters honoris causa upon Bramwell Tovey.
By authority of the Senate of this university, I confer upon you, Bramwell Tovey, the title and degree Doctor of Letters, honoris causa.
Thank you very much. That was an excerpt from Bramwell Tovey's The Inventor. It now gives me great pleasure to invite Dr. Tovey to say a few words.
Gosh. What they didn't tell you was that instead of singing Bramwell Loves It Here, which is true, by the way, the original words are Satan loves it here. But I do thank you very much. That's an excerpt from a chorus that takes place in New York in a pub. I had to do a lot of research. In the middle of my opera, The Inventor, which we're very much looking forward to welcoming the recording out next year on the Naxos label and make marvellous Christmas presents for you all. Madam Chancellor, Professor Toop, distinguished faculty, honoured graduates, ladies and gentlemen, it is with considerable humility and gratitude that I thank you for the very great honour you have bestowed upon me this morning. In accepting this degree, I am very conscious of those who have supported me and enabled me to receive this honour today. First and foremost, of course, in that must come my family. My wonderful children, Ben, Jessica, and Emmeline, and my inspirational wife, Lana, a professional singer and music educator who is my greatest critic, my most dear friend, my companion, and my trusted intellectual sparring partner. I am also acutely conscious of the fact that in my particular discipline, which is of course music, unless I am playing the piano, I am usually the only person on stage who is entirely silent throughout any performance. Mine is the only job that I can think of where you enter a concert hall and people pay their hard-earned cash to look at the back. In other words, I must acknowledge the team of extraordinary artists it has been my privilege to lead during the last decade, the Grammy and Juno award-winning Vancouver Symphony Orchestra. The cornerstones of the VSO's success as a model orchestra in the 21st century have included community, creativity, education, and above all other things, performing excellence. I have been supported throughout this period by a superb administration led by a wonderful president and general manager, Mr. Jeff Alexander. Our board, which represents the finest of our community of citizens and corporate citizens, has been so lucky to have been under the chairmanship of Mr. Art Wilms, one of the most inspiring people I have ever met, whose tenure sadly comes to an end this month after a decade of dedication and commitment. Our concertmaster, Dale Baltrop, who hails from Australia, is a great artist and a true leader whose inspiration has enabled the VSO to hit new heights. And of course, the tenured, wonderful group of musicians and their chair, Christy Reside, and their former chair, Mr. Doug Sparks, have been amazing. The road to becoming a tenured musician at the VSO is long and hard. First, you must audition, performing concertos and repertoire excerpts anonymously behind a screen up against your peers. Weaker candidates are discarded. Sounds terrible, doesn't it? And a second round, also behind a screen, continues the process. The screen is there to protect against racial and gender discrimination. In the third round, the screen is removed and the process continues with 10 professional musicians on the committee, of which I am chair, eyeballing, scrutinizing, every technical and musical component of the candidate's performance. It's like CSI for music. It is a ferocious and forensic process, but even then it's not over. After 2 years, I must decide if a player meets the required standard to become a tenured member of the orchestra, considering not only the audition process, but their track record as a performer and colleague within the community of the orchestra. On average, 1 or 2 out of 10 applicants fails even at this stage. The orchestra regularly attracts over 50 players for every job advertised. This orchestra is a jewel in the crown that is Canadian culture and makes an enormous contribution to the life of this great city. Many of our musicians are also teachers here at the University of British Columbia in your excellent School of Music under Dean Dr. Richard Kurth. We perform several times a year with the singers of the opera division under their wonderful director Nancy Hermiston. Indeed, my own opera, as you just heard, was performed and recorded in collaboration with them last year. The VSO is the largest arts organisation in Western Canada. Its first concerts to date from the 1890s but the orchestra's official history begins in 1918, the last year of the Great War. Heading an arts organization in 2012 is very different to those early, almost freelance times. We carry a considerable infrastructure of artists and administration. We give 150 concerts a year. Our repertoire covers a period of roughly 400 years. That means Baroque, classical, romantic, expressionist, avant-garde, contemporary jazz, world and popular music must all be played in the style and custom appropriate to the discipline. We play to over 40,000 school children a year and visit dozens of schools under our VSO Connect scheme. We commission and perform much Canadian and international new music. We are now the proud parents of the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra School of Music, a downtown arts facility that was enabled by a creative city council policy that encouraged the Wall Corporation to create a state-of-the-art music school for early and adult learning under the supervision and guidance of the VSO. Additionally, the VSO represents the city and the province on international tours. In 2009, we toured to China and Korea, came home, received those wonderful Grammys and Junos, and in 2010, toured again to Eastern Canada. In January 2013, we are touring to the Eastern United States. Individual and collective excellence is a fundamental necessity in the performing arts. There is no room for error in our daily work. We spend hours rehearsing and practicing and correcting intonations, blends of sounds, balances, articulations of notes, and much else, all in pursuit of excellence. No one wants to buy a ticket for a concert that has a bum note. It speaks for itself. If we fail to achieve excellence, the public won't come. We do not sign a Hippocratic oath like members of the medical profession. Music is not a matter of life or death, but it is a matter of life. In particular, the inner life. So what exactly is this thing called music? Well, it's much harder to describe than you might imagine. Music is a language entirely in tones and rhythms that functions as a form of communication between performer and listener. Much music is pure song, incorporating the human voice. But the language of music itself does not require any text, merely tones and rhythms. In the diverse and multi-ethnic community that is the city of Vancouver, music is the only language that everyone understands. Music expresses that which is inexpressible in words. Even Shakespeare writes in his plays to music or to song. Those events of the personal inner narrative are what we are in the business of making. It is the means of sharing our collective experience. It is much else besides that, but at its noblest and most profound, it is about excellence, communication, and social cohesiveness. An extraordinary program in Venezuela, of all places, called El Sistema, has demonstrated the social power of music to transform lives. It was founded by an economist and musician, Jose Antonio Abreu, and has touched the lives of over 500,000 young Venezuelans with the power of, in this case, orchestral music. It is copied all over the world. Here in Vancouver, it's being pioneered by the St. James Music Academy, an amazing project on Vancouver's Lower East Side under the inspirational vision of Catherine Walker. Not a musician herself, she made the downtown East Side her home. Stephen Rathjen, a graduate of this university and a former composition pupil of Dr. Stephen Chapman, is the director of programming. The facility itself is the church and building of St. James's. Their work is inspirational and is occurring on our doorstep, less than 15 minutes' drive from these hallowed walls. In combination with the VSO School of Music, the VSO is planning a closer partnership with St. James Music Academy in order to bring the joy of music into more children's lives. In the United Kingdom, it has been my honour and privilege since 2006 to serve as artistic director of one of Great Britain's most esteemed working-class traditions. I am the artistic director of the National Youth Brass Band of Great Britain. The connection between music and healthy citizens is hard to deny when you've seen young people responding to the power and inspiration of music. This summer, I took 85 members of the National Youth Brass Band of Great Britain to play at the BBC Promenade concerts of the Royal Albert Hall in London for a programme of contemporary music broadcast live on the BBC. That sort of thing used to be heard on the CBC. but alas, no more. Like Venezuela and the Vancouver East Side St. James Music Academy and the VSO education programs, but unlike the CBC, it's about investing in tomorrow's society. With a few notable exceptions, such as Saturday afternoon at the Opera, the CBC may be failing to represent our cultural life, but the Canada Council continues to thrive and prosper. It is my personal belief that despite its trials and tribulations, the Canada Council remains a beacon of example to the rest of the world about how government can and does reinvest in the community. We no longer expect nor want grants. That may sound odd to you, but we do expect investment from government at all levels, and we are very happy to produce the returns on those investments, as indeed we believe we have done. That will ensure Canadian culture can embrace a competitive excellence internationally. And now, may I address specifically this group of very distinguished and rather imposing-looking graduates in front and behind me. Your academic journey ends in part today. You have arrived at this moment after years of study and dedication. Like the VSO musicians, you are well aware of what it takes to pursue the goal of excellence in your own particular field. The award of any degree is not a thing to be taken or received or given lightly. Just in case you're thinking of relaxing, I should warn you that you are nowhere near the end of your endeavors. However, this moment is the official confirmation by this university that you have achieved what it takes to represent the academic excellence of this institution. As you enter the workforce and pursue your chosen goals, you have deep and profound obligations to society. We heard about the obligation or the duty of volunteerism already this morning. Sure, you've had to pay your way through college, but the obligations and rewards of being a great citizen are not necessarily fiscal. It's true we cannot prosper as a society without economic success, whatever field you are in. At the VSO, we are very proud to have enjoyed 8 years of deficit-free operations. That's quite a track record for a not-for-profit institution, even though there's not much to show for it in the way of financial gain on the balance sheet. The question you must ask yourselves over the next decades will be, for example, how can I contribute to the greater good? Where can I make a difference? How can I be the change that is necessary? It is only by assessing your obligations and accessing and providing solutions that any of us can be of any use at all. You might have the chance to be an Erin Brockovich or a Nelson Mandela. I don't know. But I do know you have the chance to be you. You will be inundated with choices. Be prepared for those moments. Don't be taken by surprise by anything. Carpe diem. Seize the day and make the world a better place. When I graduated, I had little or no idea where my life was heading. I was considering becoming a conductor and composer, but it was only much later that I realized I could harness my musicianship to make a decent contribution to the social fabric of society. I was brought up in the Salvation Army, and as a boy had it inculcated into me that making a contribution as a good citizen was much more important than almost anything else after family life. At the VSO, we often tell the story of a teacher who wrote to us a few years ago after an education concert at the Orpheum Theatre, where I spoke about and conducted the music of Beethoven. The teacher wanted us to see a comment that had been written by a young boy who had been in and out of foster care his entire life, all 7 years of it. His parents were unable to care for him for one reason or another, you can only imagine. The boy wrote 3 things. Number 1, it was the most beautiful building he had ever seen. The second was, it was the most wonderful music I have ever heard. And the third thing he wrote, It was the greatest day of my life. Beethoven spoke directly to that young boy and affected his life. Fancy that! An almost 200-year-old dead German composer with a profound disability touched the life of a boy in foster care on Vancouver's east side in the 21st century. And some people wonder what the arts is for. Outside the VSO School of Music is a large 5-story glass mural. It is the opening bars of Beethoven's Ode to Joy, a tune that is played by every beginner and every professional musician. The mural, which uses Beethoven's own calligraphy from his original manuscript, shows the words that introduce the Ode to Joy. The words of the ode are by Schiller, but the opening text is not, and is thought to be by Beethoven himself. It's written in German, but translated it says, "Oh, friends, no more these sounds of discord. Let us sing more cheerful songs, more full of joy." I believe the sound of children singing is the most inspiring music that has ever been heard. Yet it is too often unheard in our schools. It requires little by way of resources and brings untold inspiration to the performer and the listener. Why are we letting elementary schools get away with failing to fulfill their legal obligations to provide music education? And why on earth are we expecting teachers to teach music who don't even read music or have any qualifications for it? Do we expect that to work in other fields like science or mathematics or English? Are our brain surgeons trained in something else? Of course not. It shows a fundamental musical illiteracy and ignorance of the positive effect of music in young people's lives. When my children attended their public elementary school, I cringed as untrained teachers let the children sing the Ode to Joy in several keys at once, while my daughter on the cello played it in D major. That's not cute. It's pathetic. It's illiteracy in action. We can and must do better than that. Class of 2012, this is your moment in the sun, although it doesn't look like it this morning, does it? There's a lot that needs fixing and improving in the field of human rights, social opportunities, and much else besides. In 40 years, you will be the white-haired old fogey up here. I've still a lot to do myself, but I look forward to watching as this multicultural generation growing up in this wonderful country of ours takes the reins over the next few years. Class of 2012, be excellent. Seize the day. This is your time, your moment. The future is now in your hands. Thank you and good luck.